How's it going, everybody? So I'm just chilling here, drinking my morning elixir drink, and I wanted to respond to a comment that I got earlier today. I have been summoned by a subscriber to share this cosmic energy with you all today. So basically, they were asking me what my take is on long-term negative effects on caffeine usage. So I made a video already kind of discussing the research on that and why long-term negative side effects of caffeine usage is most likely a non-issue. And pretty much the only people who are going to tell you that caffeine has some kind of extreme detrimental effect that you should be aware of in the long term are people who are operating at the very lowest form of evidence, and they're really just fear-mongering. Like, oh, it's going to kill your cortisol levels and, deteriorate the brain due to chronic stress and all this other stuff. And the fact of the matter is we don't see that reflected in the scientific literature. And in fact, what we see is the opposite. We see people who drink the most coffee and or green tea, or tea in general, especially tea, typically have the greatest health outcomes. Okay, and so then I explained why that might be healthy user bias, right? Because at the same time, people who drink the most energy drinks tend to have the lowest health benefits. They typically have more diseases, actually, and this has been directly compared. And I think it's mostly it has to do with lifestyle. That's why the coffee and tea group typically are better off. However, the fact is we don't see hardly any evidence that shows over the long term, caffeine intake from things like coffee and green tea have some kind of noticeable detrimental effect over the long term, especially on brain health. Okay. The evidence is pretty solid, backing up an observation that the more coffee and tea people drink, the lower the risk of diseases like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's, and depression as well. So in this video, so if you want more on that, go and check that video out, okay? I'll link it in the description down below. This video I'm going to be discussing how I personally consume coffee, tea, yerba mate, and caffeine on a regular basis, and I'm able to sleep through the night. I'm able to function at a very high level and not experience negative side effects most of the time, okay? So, first of all, the dose compared to your tolerance is very important. Over the long term, the more you continue to consistently drink the same dose of caffeine, the more your body builds a tolerance to it, okay? And it's been shown in studies that your brain typically will build a tolerance to a lot of the negative effects, like jitters and stuff like that. And some of the positive effects, but a lot of the positive effects are still maintained. Things like mental acuity and stuff like that. As I discussed in detail in the last video, the actual mechanism of action of caffeine has not clearly been defined. It's only speculation, and only certain effects have been identified. Even the adenosine receptor blocking activity is highly debatable, okay? And what I believe is that caffeine's the main reason why it makes you feel the way it does is because it stimulates the release of adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, and glutamate, the stimulating neurotransmitter, okay? And so typically when you have all these catecholamines and you have a stimulation of glutamate involved, that means GABA, your body's main relaxing neurotransmitter, is turned off. Typically when people take GABA increasing substances, things like benzos, L-theanine and stuff like that. Side note, theanine's found in green tea and guayusa and other caffeine forms, and people typically take that to, so typically these GABA stimulating compounds have a calming effect on the nervous system, and they make you want to sleep. Okay. And I've talked about extensively how I drink green tea and pu'er and black tea. I used to drink that before bed to cure my chronic insomnia. And there's a lot of people that drink green tea in the right manner to calm themselves down. So just because caffeine is in a plant doesn't mean it's going to make you have jitters and stuff. So the thing is, if you have jitters from coffee, okay, obviously a very common thing people do is they'll switch to yerba mate. And a lot of my subscribers do that. And yerba mate actually has compounds in it that boost endocannabinoids, right? How many people have you heard say CBD like makes them relax and helps them sleep? Well, guess what? If you switch your caffeine source over to yerba mate, the euphoria and the relaxation and the satisfaction people feel when they drink yerba mate is most likely due to its abilities on kind of regulating and stimulating and boosting the endocannabinoid system. And that's one of the reasons why I've drinking yerba mate pretty regularly since like 2014, right? And I made videos talking about how yerba mate is like some miracle, right? Mate is magic, right? It's going to be my clickbait title. Yerba mate also has benefits on protecting the dopamine receptors, dopamine neurons, and has unique compounds that help to stimulate brain-derived neurotropic factor and nerve growth factor, similarly to some of the polyphenols like epicatechin gallate, ECGC, found in green tea. So, something that I do every morning with my coffee is I just add, like I basically brew up an entire kind of coffee maker, and in the basket I put anywhere from 4 to 6 tablespoons of ground coffee beans, and I select my coffee very specifically. I make sure that my coffee is high altitude grown. I make sure that it is shade grown, and then I like coffee that's like sun dried, right? And only from specific regions, right? Colombia is hit or miss. Costa Rica is usually good, but it just depends. And I have noticed very striking correlations between certain coffees and how they make me feel, and other coffees that make me feel like crap. And I found, without fail, the cheapest coffee, especially the stuff you buy from the grocery store, their brand, I have acid reflux symptoms from a lot of those cheaper coffees, or else I feel like it clogs up my sinuses, and I just feel overall shitty when I drink cheap coffees. So I select very carefully the coffees I drink. I have no problem putting down like $15 for like an 8-ounce thing of coffee if that coffee is going to give me the kind of nootropic, calming, relaxing, satisfying, stimulating, energizing effects that I'm looking for. Because why are you drinking coffee if it's just going to make you feel like shit? Okay? And I've done periods of time where I just removed it. So anyway, I found that there are compounds in coffee that can make or break the effects. Absolutely. All right. And sometimes I'll take isolated caffeine supplements in a high dose that make me feel better than certain coffees do with the same, hypothetical expected dose of caffeine, because you can't really tell how much caffeine is going to be in a spoonful of coffee grinds. It varies. All right, so this is my 4th freaking cup of caffeine that I've had in the last 4 hours. Okay, my 4th cup of yerba mate / coffee. So here's the thing. Number 1, it highly depends on the quality of the coffee. Number 2, it depends on. So I take this with 2 tablespoons of yerba mate in the coffee basket, and then 1 to 2 tablespoons of guayusa. Today I just did yerba mate and coffee. Yerba mate and coffee is the most amazing freaking combination. That yerba mate really helps to balance out the jittery effects of coffee. Let's see. What else do I do? So you can add Rishi Mushroom. Okay. So watch my videos on Rishi. Okay. Don't be one of those fools who go and they get mushroom coffee. The one mistake you can really waste your money, time, and energy on, and probably experience placebo effects, is if you get a cheap Rishi coffee where it's like coffee blended with Rishi mushroom. Fuck that shit. You need to get specific, high quality, elite level, top shelf fucking Rishi, or you will not experience the benefits. So my clients that come to me with anxiety and shit, that's the first thing I tell them to try. There's a 4-to-1 Rishi mushroom powder that you can get from Terra Sol. It is a hot water extracted Rishi from Dawnwood Rishi mushrooms. That is a 5-star super tonic herb. Okay, Dawnwood Rishi hot water extracted. 4-to-1 extract from Terra Sol. Order that shit off Amazon. It's $15 per 5 ounces. It's a great deal. Even better would be Hyperion Herbs, Dawnwood Rishi extract. Okay, now I don't know what's going on with which extract they've been using lately, but it's anywhere from a 10 to a 16-to-1 extract, and it's either Dole extracted or hot water extracted. I don't even know at this point, but I can tell you anything you get from Hyperion Herbs is almost always going to be high quality. I've never had a negative experience with Hyperion Herbs quality. Sometimes, though, the herb you get might just not be for you. So Rishi Mushroom is the first one. Rishi is a very profound kind of fix-in you could add to your coffee that it is such a fad now for people to add Rishi and lion's mane to your coffee because this shit fucking works. So Rishi, and I would recommend don't do lion's mane for now. Try Rishi first. What Rishi does is it actually has been shown to also have kind of endocannabinoid boosting benefits, similar to CBD. It seems to upregulate the sensitivity of endocannabinoid receptors and having an overall regulating effect on endocannabinoids. And this is fascinating considering the fact that the endocannabinoid system has an integral role in immunity. And one of the most profound benefits of Rishi is its supposed anti-cancer and immune boosting properties. And you'll hear all sorts of crazy people's claims that Rishi like reversed these diseases or made them never get sick and stuff like that. For me, man, I've had a crazy immune system due to all the other shit that I do long before I started taking Rishi. So that's something you can try. Is take about 1/4 of a teaspoon of Rishi mushroom extract from these brands that I mentioned. Don't ever get cheap shit. Add that shit in your coffee. You should be good to go. Or 1/2 teaspoon, right? That's one thing you can do. And watch all my videos on Rishi, okay? I have lots of good information on that. Another thing you could do is you can buy holy basil, and you can buy it in the loose leaf kind of form. You can buy it from Organic India, right? And they make a lot of the commercially available tea bags of holy basil now. Take holy basil, and I'm literally visualizing myself just get a handful of the leaves and just put that in the fucking coffee basket. Literally, you can get loose leaf holy basil and brew that shit with your coffee. That will give you a synergistic effect because holy basil has been shown to put it simply, boost the GABA system and boost the turnover of glutamate into GABA, so that when you drink coffee, you're getting the stimulating effects of the caffeine and the glutamate activation and all that. But then you have the kind of calming benefits of the holy basil. And on top of that, holy basil is just a very powerful adaptogenic herb, a very powerful tonic herb, on par with Rishi in the Ayurvedic system, right? I would not recommend you take these two at the same time in the morning because you'll just be too calm. Holy basil is very profound. It's very amazing. And it's one of my favorite tonic herbs. So very, very good synergistic effects. And it'll have similar effects to using theanine, okay? So that's going to be the next thing that I mention on my list is L-theanine. There is a reason why the most commonly consumed nootropic stack that people take is L-theanine stacked on top of caffeine in a 2-to-1 ratio. It's because L-theanine promotes the release of GABA, and more importantly, the turnover of glutamate into GABA. So when you take caffeine, it stimulates the release of glutamate. When you take L-theanine, what it does is it takes that glutamate that's being released from the caffeine, and it turns it over into GABA, so that when you drink caffeine, all it's doing is being turned over into GABA in the synapses or wherever it's being like turned over. So, you know, and there's a lot of other kind of things that are going on. L-theanine's been shown to be neuroprotective and all these other things, but probably secondary to its effects on glutamate and GABA. And so you can, but the thing about L-theanine is you got to be careful. If you buy cheap stuff, it might not work. I personally highly recommend the Jarrow brand Sun Theanine. Now, you'll hear people say it doesn't matter if you get the Sun Theanine brand or the regular basic theanine. It's just one's patented and the other's not. But I personally do recommend getting the Sun Theanine because I have noticed a variation of quality. If you get Sun Theanine, it's patented. It's guaranteed to be what you're paying for. And I just don't see the point in buying something if you don't have a high degree of confidence that it's going to work. The more tested something is, whether it's lab tested, it's patented, it's out of a company that has a high reputation at stake, go ahead and fucking get the Sun Theanine. Actually, here's one that I should have mentioned first. And it's probably why I feel so amazing despite my high caffeine usage a lot of the time now. Oh my god, I'm so scared of dying, right? Because this is my 4th fucking cup of coffee, whatever. No. Nope. I am not one of those damn tinfoil hat people. Right? Oh, please, Dr. Berg, continue to tell me how cortisol is going to kill me. Continue to tell me how fructose is a sum of all fears. Like, okay, fuck out of here, Dr. Berg. He's not even, never mind, forget that guy. When I finally get my PhD or my medical degree, which I'm working for right now, I am going to probably look at these wannabe doctors on YouTube with such disdain. Not to say that you need a medical degree to be, but people who present themselves as doctors and they really, well, even though you are a doctor if you have a chiropractic degree, but whatever. Fuck Dr. Berg. Look, here's a tip. Rhodiola rosea. Rhodiola rosea. Make sure it's rosea, not crenulata. Completely different effects in plants. One of the most profound herbs I've taken that helps to synergize with coffee that I'm taking right now, and I've been taking pretty consistently since like October of last year. It's probably been at like 6 months, maybe 8 months now. Rhodiola rosea. The problem is there does seem to be a variability depending on the brand. You can buy from Nutricos. They have like a bulk rhodiola extract powder. You want 3% rosavins, 1% solidricides, okay? And I've taken all sorts of forms. You can get it from Nootropics Depot as well. Nootropics Depot, I think, is probably the most credible place to get it from. You want to start off with 250 milligrams a day of rhodiola rosea. Nature's Way makes a really good extract. I've taken that one with very good results. Start with 250 milligrams in the morning with your coffee. What you'll find is, and there's a lot of people with ADHD and all sorts of problems that take rhodiola and experience profound benefits. Obviously, one of the main claims of fame with rhodiola is its ability to lower cortisol, which is not a universally good thing. Okay, one of the main reasons why herbs like Asha Gwanda can cause lethargy in the long term is because they lower cortisol too much. and then you just don't feel like doing anything. You feel lazy and lethargic because cortisol is a beneficial compound. Anyway, what rhodiola really does as far as synergizing with caffeine is it is a mild MAOIB inhibitor, depending on the extract. That's debatable. But it also does help to lower adrenaline, lower that cortisol, but channel it more into improving the functioning of dopamine over time, to where the longer you take it, the less you want to give in to addictions like pornography, masturbation, and stupid shit like that, alcohol, and the more focused you're going to be on your actual long-term goals. It really seems to strengthen that motivation pathway, and it definitely has an overall antioxidant boosting effect. And by the way, every single thing I mentioned so far, holy basil, reishi, theanine, rhodiola, these all boost your body's endogenous antioxidant system over the long term and help to neutralize free radicals, and probably lowers the so-called brain inflammation that's correlated with mental illness and things like that. I have found, without fail, the more of these kind of compounds I consume, the better I feel overall. So over time, you can kind of increase your rhodiola dosage to 500 milligrams a day in the morning and 500 in the afternoon or the evening. But you have to be careful because less is more at rhodiola. Some people notice the most profound benefits at 250 milligrams taken in the morning and 250 milligrams in the afternoon. Sometimes you can increase that and get better benefits, but you'll hit a bell curve or whatever. You'll hit a response where you're taking too much. If you take too much rhodiola, you start to get tired and fatigued and lethargic. So be very careful at rhodiola where you start low and only titrate up over time. Also be mindful that if you take it too close to bed, there might be a insomnia effect for whatever reason, which is indicative of like it not just lowering cortisol, and that's why it helps you. Because if rhodiola really lowered cortisol that much, you would be able to sleep without fail all the time, right? It'd be like Asha Gwanda that just knocks you the fuck out. So, yeah, look into my videos on rhodiola. That's a huge, huge game changer. Another herb that you can take along coffee, but one that you got to be careful with and really be kind of like mindful of its effects, is Asha Gwanda. I have made videos advocating ashwagandha usage as well as advocating against ashwagandha usage, similarly to rhodiola and freaking reishi, and that's just because the dose and the form is vitally important. And a lot of times, less is more. Less is more. Everyone thinks, oh, I gotta have the most powerful extract. If it's not, if it's not the 10% active constituents, then it's not potent enough. No. Okay? Throughout the thousands of years that people are taking these substances, they usually just take them in the whole herb form with profound benefits. Okay? Not to say standardized extracts are bad, but you got to be careful, everyone. More is not always better. So, with ashwagandha, okay, I recommend you start off with the whole root powder, not a standardized extract, okay? And I'm currently taking the Terrasol, plain Jane, ground up, dried root powder of ashwagandha. If that one's not available, you can get the Anthony's brand, okay? Yes, it's true Himalaya does have an ashwagandha powder, but it's standardized at 2% with anandamides. I think that one's good after you've already tried just the basic plain Jane root powder. You could try the Himalaya powder. So, here's what I find, okay? With ashwagandha, if you take 1/4 of a teaspoon along with coffee, especially if you take it along with a low dose of rhodiola, you should not feel fucking jitters from their coffee. Because it lowers cortisol so much and it lowers adrenaline, and it also has some side effects of like lowering prolactin over time and stuff like that. It'll just give you this really awesome kind of present to the moment effect where you're just like, man, I feel amazing. I can stop and smell the roses, and no matter how much coffee I drink, I still love my life, and I'm not like killing shit, right? So you can start off with 1/8 of a teaspoon of Asha Gwanda with your coffee just to gauge the effects. Slowly increase it to 1/4, maybe 1/2 a teaspoon over time. For me personally, what I've been experimenting with lately with good success is a 1/2 a teaspoon of Asha Gwanda before I go to bed. Because that still kind of carries over into the next day because it's so powerful. But it allows me to get amazing sleep that night. And when I wake up and I have my fucking coffee, I'll take my rhodiola and my tonic herbs along with my coffee, and I just feel good to go. I just feel like my resilience to stress is so high, I can get all my work done and stuff like that and attack the day and attack my goals with really no kind of jittery, kind of irrational resistance to life is really what I would describe the jitters I used to feel. So I would highly recommend, though, whatever you do, start experimenting with these different herbs on top of your caffeine usage. Just because it all it does is enhances the effects, right? A lot of what these herbs do is it takes the benefits you get from coffee and makes them stronger. I'm going to make a whole nother video where I just explain the benefits of coffee and green tea and yerba mate. Because I have made videos on the benefits of that before. That way you understand, like, it's not a matter of like, oh, coffee is bad and this is just helping it be less bad. No, this is synergizing. And coffee and green tea and yerba mate have amazing, profound benefits, at least in my opinion, based on the evidence we have and its traditional usage, that you can use to your advantage, and you should not stop drinking it altogether. So, I mean, and there are so many things you can do on top of this. Things that I probably am missing right now. Some people take N-acetylcysteine along with their coffee, and that's basically a precursor to glutathione. And they find that it kind of helps to take the edge off. If you're really determined to get over your coffee consumption, a really good way to like remove the addiction would be N-acetylcysteine. Dosing it properly and stuff. Maybe alongside Rishi Mushroom and cordyceps. So another thing you can do is take a Mucuna Perrins extract in the morning. I recommend the Nutricost Mucuna extract. Take that not in hot water, because hot water and hot coffee actually destroys L-Dopa. It is safe to take over long term as long as you're not taking the drug L-Dopa. Other things you could do is consume a protein meal along with your coffee. Stay the fuck away from carbohydrates with your coffee. Stay away from sugar and honey and all that stuff along with coffee, because that has the ability to just create some kind of crazy postprandial, like hypoglycemia state. I've noticed when I consume honey along with coffee, or sugar along with coffee, or high carb meal along with coffee, the combination, or caffeine combined with sugar is a no bueno. And I think a lot of people experience this effect where you feel like this crazy, jittery, sweaty high, and you're like, God, I feel like I'm on crack. And then this crazy fatigue crash afterwards. And it's some kind of postprandial, like adrenaline response or something. But I have found actually the opposite effect when I consume. So my routine is like, I'll mix coffee, yerba mate, whatever, my tonic herbs. And my tonic herb routine is way deeper. I'll make a whole nother video where I just explain my current tonic herb routine. And lately, what I found, and I found this for a long time, if I take some MCT oil or some C8 MCT oil and or 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in my coffee, I've done this many times since like 2018. I feel like the caffeine has a much more balanced buzz, and I feel like I have energy for the rest of the day without needing to eat. And that's probably secondary to the ketones. And there's a whole host of benefits of having your high blood ketones. And if you're interested in that, I recommend looking into the work of Stephen Finney and Jeff Volek, and especially their book, The Art and Science of Low Carb Performance. Okay, there is a huge ignorant component in the evidence-based nutrition community where they're completely missing a whole host of superhuman benefits associated with higher blood ketones. And I have found it to, like, knowing what I know after 10 years of studying the research on this and having so many textbooks on these subjects I don't know what to do with, as well as living the subjective experimentation benefits, what you would expect to happen with higher blood ketones and what you feel based on this research is profound. I feel more GABA production, which is why ketones are used therapeutically for things like dementia and things like, what is the other one? Epilepsy. The proposed mechanism as to why ketones and ketogenic diets are so beneficial is, for one, less reactive oxygen species being produced as a byproduct of metabolism of carbohydrate burning, but also, or endogenous glucose production from exogenous sources. Body's still burning glucose in ketogenic state. But also some of the pro-GABA compounds. Again, it has to do with GABA and glutamate production. There's less overstimulation of glutamate and more GABA being produced when you consume ketones, or MCT oil, which is directly converted into ketones in the liver, or when you follow a ketogenic or a low-carb diet like I do. And that's also one of the benefits of vigorous exercise, is you burn off your liver glycogen and your blood glucose to the point where ketones over time start to be produced, and then you get this kind of pseudo ketogenic state for a short duration of time till you ruin it when you consume exogenous carbohydrates, hopefully not in the form of fucking Gatorade, which serves no benefit to the human performance. That couldn't be better remedied otherwise. But so yeah, I find MCT oil, coconut oil, and then also consuming protein on the side. Because if you consume like mixing whey protein along, so another thing about mixing fats with your coffee is that caffeine is partly water soluble and secondarily fat soluble. And so not only do you get a more efficient absorption into the bloodstream when you consume the fats, but it's hypothesized by certain people, I'm not going to say their name, that the absorption of caffeine is prolonged when you consume fats on the side, because due to whatever maybe some kind of carrier effect is kind of what people hypothesize. But there's a lot of reasons as to why that might be the case. But I would say giving that a try is like consuming it alongside like coconut oil is a safe bet if you don't want to go for the MCT or the highly refined oils. 2 tablespoons of coconut oil blended in your coffee, giving that a try. Again, it's a staple in nootropic communities and biohacking communities and just coffee culture in general. You always hear about them adding, creamer and shit to your coffee. You know what I mean? Heavy cream. I think that it really evens out the effects. Because if you're just drinking plain Jane black coffee like I've done for so long, maybe try the cream, but stay away from like creamer, right? Like stay away from that commercialized bullshit. And if your diet's not on check, you should really stop looking at how to optimize coffee and caffeine intake and clean up your actual things that matter the most first, right? Because it doesn't matter what you do with your caffeine, especially if you're worrying about the long-term negative effects of caffeine, but you haven't even gotten your diet on check. It's like the long-term negative effects on the brain of like a shitty diet are way worse than long-term negative effects on the brain of like caffeine. Like, what the fuck? So anyway, consuming protein on the side, basically like if you especially isolated protein supplements. If you blend egg white protein, if you're sensitive to dairy, or you blend like a high quality whey protein isolate with your coffee, what you get is a faster absorbing and digesting source of amino acids. So where like 1 to 3 hours after the coffee consumption, when you would normally get the jitters and the cortisol bump, you have those amino acids that flow into your bloodstream. They promote glucagon, which stabilizes your blood sugar and your hunger hormones, as well as a steady stream of amino acids into the bloodstream that provide things like tryptophan for serotonin production, glutamic acid, which eventually becomes GABA, which we've talked about extensively so far. And then you also get phenylalanine, which converts into tyrosine and dopamine and stuff like that. And what you get is all of these amino acids that support neurotransmitter activity that helps stabilizing good mood and energy after caffeine consumption. What do people usually drink their fucking coffee with, man? The complete opposite of what I'm saying. They're like, yeah, I'm going to eat this goddamn donut with my coffee. And my coffee contains vegetable oil creamer and, you know, I add a bunch of sugar to it. Bro, it's not the coffee in these fuckers' daily routine that's a problem. It's a crazy spike of adrenaline, cortisol, and sugar that all literally make you feel like absolute anxious, unstable wreck. Compared to what I'm doing, I'm like, yeah, man, like take these stabilizing, balancing tonic herbs, bro, right? These things have been used to restore balance for thousands of years, bro. Take the, drink, stay away from sugar around your consumption. And if you're going to eat, take it with like coconut oil and some protein powder. It's the complete opposite, man. And newsflash, the majority of Americans are not eating too much fucking protein. They're eating too little. If you actually look at the NHANES data on like food consumption in the population, the top 5 sources of all sources of calories are all from refined carbohydrates and dairy products in the form of cheese. And the top protein source is actually chicken. Okay? So most people are eating fettuccine alfredo, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, reverse the script. Okay? It's crazy. People just, oh yeah, I heard this from this guy and I'm just going to roll with it. No. Protein, protein, protein. And if you're going to eat fats, you're not trying to lose weight, right? Because you don't want too many excess calories. It is a calorie thing. Eat the damn coconut oil. So, look, I have so many other things that I can suggest, okay? Add matcha tea to your routine. Matcha powder. That's a great thing that helps balance things out. But this is all you need to really worry about. So, if you work with some of these things and maybe do it interchangeably, it'll really help you. So, I'm going to make another video where I go through my own tonic herb, like elixir routine. And right now I'm preparing for a competition, so I tend to invest way more money in herbs and stuff like that in my diet than I normally would. Like, I am usually a minimalist with herbs and supplements and stuff like that in diet, because I find the simplest and most cost-effective things you can do typically have the most profound effect. 20% of methods equal 80% of your results. But right now, my routine is fucking crazy and probably unnecessary. But I'll make a video about that here momentarily. Hopefully this has helped. Leave your question, comments down below. And let me know, and I'll talk to you all next time.